I was hoping to talk about the court cards this time because the court cards are kind of a difficult concept, I think, for people learning to read, because you kind of think, are they representing situations? Are they actual people in the person's life? Are they aspects of the person themselves? And I can see in other decks how they might be a little bit enigmatic. But for me, the Thoth court cards are so fun and easy because they are chatty, they are expressive, they touch things, they hold things, they wear or not wear things, so that you've got all the clues really there. And for me, I think, even though I say they kind of, fun and easy, I found the whole Thoth in the first place fun and easy. And out of all of them, the court cards were the hardest for me to figure out. But I know that they're kind of a popular request when teaching. I mean, you teach a lot, so you must get that they carry kind of more questions than minors or majors. Do you find the same, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's quite a lot of tarot teachers who actually leave out the court cards and they don't even teach them to their students, which I find bizarre. I think
it's bizarre to leave anything out because it's such a perfect system. Without being too evangelical about it, it is such a perfect system. Why would you leave anything out? But I think even because I used to teach with the Rider-Waite, because it was kind of an easier starting point for a lot of people, because you teach all the levels. And I used to do this fun exercise of getting people to sort of throw out descriptive words, writing them down on actual pen and paper. I don't know how people teach nowadays, but my face-to-face lessons were actual pen and paper, and I'd write all the descriptors, and then I'd be like, so which person in the public eye does that remind you of, in order to create like a link. So they're fun to teach. They're not just fun to learn, they're fun to teach.
I think we need to embrace ambiguity with the court cards. It's like labeling someone. People give themselves labels, but they don't like to be labeled. And the court cards themselves, they're kind of like a Swiss Army knife of personality and people, if you like. And it depends on the person who that card represents, because I remember sometimes in reading I say, well, this court card has several meanings. It could be this, this, and this, and it could represent you, and it could represent something else. One client said, yeah, all of those. So
but it's true.
It's true. They work on lots of levels. And there's a really interesting thing about the court cards in the Book of Thoth, is that when you actually look at the Golden Dawn descriptions from Book T and other sources, you find that Frida Harris has done a totally faithful representation of those cards, believe it or not, even down to the position of the right hand is here and the left hand is here, and all these sort of things. And some of the things that she doesn't put in there is precisely because artistically it doesn't work, but everything else is. So the other thing is that court cards, you can see them as representing the zodiac signs.
You can see 12 of them anyway.
Yeah. I mean, because the princesses aren't zodiac signs. They're the thrones of the aces, which gets into a whole new other ball game. And there's this other problem, is that the rulership of the court cards is offset by 10 degrees. And I can never remember this system.
No, but yeah, it starts from 20 to yeah.
So you've got that on there. Plus the system is, if you come from the Rider-Waite system, the pages are princesses.
Yeah.
The king
and the kings
are the knights. the queens are the queens. Is that right, Bart?
Yeah, I suppose so.
The queens are the queens. Yeah.
We haven't frozen
yeah.
you out, Bart.
No. My mind was wandering off a bit, to be honest. I'm really sorry.
It does with the court cards. I mean, the thing is...
No, I was...
Go on, Bart.
The Golden Dawn. It's when you read the Golden Dawn descriptions of the court cards, they can give you a very quite precise description of how that person should look, the color of hair, color of their skin, their complexion.
Yeah. Unless you're black or Asian, of course, and then it doesn't work.
But it is in the Golden Dawn, in Israel Regardi's Golden Dawn, you get a physical description of who it might, how that person might look like.
But that's a white description.
It's a white-centric. It might be a white-centric description, but I'll give you sort of the. I wonder if I can find them. Sorry, I'm always searching in the boxes behind me, because when I started reading before the Thoth, it was playing cards.
Oh yeah.
And in playing cards, you also get everything in the box. You also get like hair colors and skin colors and so on, just gradually. So you start with the diamonds that are the palest. So when I learned it, I used to say blonde person, and then kind of, medium brown hair, black hair. And I recall when I was kind of very, very new, somebody who happened to be black asked for a playing card reading.
Yeah.
And I took his cards out and I said, the guy that you're going to spend the weekend with, he was sort of quite sad after the end of a relationship. So it was a friend coming to kind of lift him up. The guy that you're going to spend the weekend with, I see him, it comes in like really, really pale colors. And he said, oh no, he's got black hair. And I said, it's all relative. And I was blushing because I really didn't know how to approach a conversation about race in the middle of a reading. And I said, it's just that I think if the majority of your family and people around you are quite dark skinned, then the white guy who's got black hair will just come in kind of the more relatively lighter colors. And he was like, oh yeah, it is a white guy. So that was sort of a good introduction to saying that if you just say what's there, it's fine. And, and you're not going to say anything stupid. But of course, my brain was like, don't say anything stupid. Don't say anything stupid. You're not in a movie. But I think in the same sense, I'm still looking for them, but I know that as soon as we switch off, they'll be like at the very top. But I think in the same sense, if we kind of just take the white-centric flavor of the descriptions, then it would be possible to assign different physical features, because when I look at the discs, for example, at least a couple of them seem to me like they might have non-European features, and it has crossed my mind whether it was on purpose or not. And I feel like the cups might have slightly Southeast Asian features. Was it an idea that was floated and then abandoned? Was it some kind of a artistic endeavor that didn't really work? Sorry, I'm sure your ears are on fire, Paul.
Sorry, Bart was putting his hand up.
Oh, yes, Bart. Sorry, I can only see Paul on my screen right now. You flip around and then when Bart talks, then I can see him. It's just because I'm doing it on the phone.
That. Okay.
Yeah, but on the lover's card, I mean, there's a white lady and a black guy.
Yeah, but that's an alchemical opposite.
Yeah,
I can imagine it's quite controversial in them days.
No,
possibly.
No, it's an alchemical.
Not after.
Clear, it's alchemical.
Not after Pamela Coleman Smith as well, because I have spent the pandemic doing virtual talks for the WI, and when you introduce the tarot, as you know, to people who have absolutely zero connection to anything esoteric at all. You kind of make the connections in the WI, I think, are very inclusive now and take great pride at being inclusive. So I say to them, you will be very unsurprised to learn that the first major sort of mass-produced tarot deck was designed by a lady, and everyone looks kind of happy. And I say, and Pamela Coleman Smith was in fact a woman of color. So the history of the tarot does involve people from, from different backgrounds, and I guess, different parts of Europe as well. The biracial relationship may have been a little controversial, but perhaps not as controversial as crowning yourself the great beast and doing a lot of heroin.
Yeah.
Well, he was doing heroin a lot of the time because he was prescribed it for his asthma.
Yeah, it wasn't illegal in them days. They were used to give it wasn't who didn't want to sleep.
None of all these drugs were perfectly. It wasn't until the Drugs Act in the 50s or 60s. These drugs you can get over the counter. It was never a problem.
Freud used to prescribe cocaine to all his clients.
Yeah.
Wait, and was getting married? No, I'm super drug free. I don't even drink. I'm just about freedoms and like Freud a lot.
Same thing. I'm 48 now. But I still like
an old man, Bart. An old man.
Yeah. Same. But was interracial marriage in fact illegal?
No. I mean,
this is the... Well, not in some places, perhaps, yes, in some others.
It wouldn't be approved of. I mean, if we're going to talk about Crowley and his predilections, if you read book 66, which is Crowley's diaries, edited by Kenneth Grant and John Simons,
Confessions,
he lists the prostitutes he slept with. One's black, one's Irish, one's fat.
Right.
Bath houses with sex with strange men as well. And it's a the thing is, if you're an artistic person, you're going to break the rules anyway because you're an artist.
Absolutely.
Have always broken sexual taboos. It's what they do.
It's part of the job, exactly. Yeah. But that's why I think we bring it back to where we pivoted from. The physical descriptions don't need to be incorrect because they're European-centric. They just need to have the European-centric element removed from them and perhaps re-embraced, because obviously the tarot is also a very heterosexual symbol. That doesn't mean that
the lovers or the brothers is a clue.
Yeah.
No, the thing is,
I think that's like a game on Radio 1.
Radio 1? Oh my God.
Yes, yeah. They have lovers or brothers. I think it's actually called exactly that.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, one of the simplest ways of dealing. I mean, I don't go down the physical description route when I'm talking about the court cards. There's several reasons. One is, I mean, if an Arabic woman comes in, the people that she knows and is dealing with are going to be Arabic. If a Chinese woman comes in, those court cards probably going to represent Chinese people in some way, and so on.
Yeah.
So it's and what the way especially when it's one wants to know whether she's going to looking for a boyfriend, very common question. The way I would do things, if a knight shows up, he's probably a bit older, and if a prince shows up, he's about the same age or probably a bit younger. That gets around that one pretty easy because women
a little bit
they know the ages. And the other way,
sorry.
Yeah. I think the other way I deal with those things is that because I'm reading and using card counting and the cards are found out like this, any card has a card either side of it and several beyond that as well. So I often describe that court card in terms of the cards either side, and three or four cards out because you count four. Okay, and so you can also count back from those cards, any cards that go onto that card. So you now have a dynamic of the sphere of influence of that person, what they're doing, and maybe what's happening to them in other ways as well. So very often you can actually sort of describe a person in terms of what's going on, you know, the ten of, the Knight of Discs has got the Seven of Cups in close proximity. This could be a businessman who's got a drink or drugs problem. Oh, I know someone like that. You know, you can, or the Three of Swords is associated with that card. Well, this is a man who's gone through bad health or a loss very recently. Yes. Yeah. Or sometimes, you know, so like the Ten of Coins is connected to the Prince of Cups. This is a man with money, and she said, "Oh yeah, I've met him." You know, so you can actually get around those things that way round, without ever having to go into physical characteristics and stuff and everything else. Because I mean, I know you're a woman, but I mean, to be honest with you, most women aren't that bothered about physical looks as such. It's not
by the time we come to you to ask for a partner, we've realized what
they're not asking me for a partner. They just it's like anyone who's half decent, got his own teeth and hair.
Exactly. Anyone that knows where the deodorant aisle is in Boots and has some kind of an income, but you know, flexible. However, I don't use like prescribed physical descriptors, but when I look at the different faces of the courts, although it's not specific to the courts, I am often able to maybe not see, but kind of know eye color or hair color. Because
Inbaal, you're guessing that from your own inner perception. That's not the card. You know, and you're right.
It's not the
because
card, but
if
for
you get
me,
the information, that's something that's coming from an awareness you have, and not necessarily the actual card description.
I think that these cards are just so phenomenal that they trigger an ability which a more ordinary deck just doesn't. Because I'll take your example, you know, if an Arabic lady, then most of the people around her would possibly look Mediterranean, but within that, I guess, kind of frame of reference, then if you're noticing the one with the straight hair, then that will be kind of a point for her to hook to, that she'll be like, oh yeah, of course, I know, you know, Hamid with the straight hair, everyone knows him.
Yeah, when I'm a bloke, I don't notice those details in the cards, you know.
That's a very sort of woman to woman kind of conversation. Or because the world is becoming more and more beautiful and we've got more and more mixed race people, then you can find a description of somebody who really would be so unusual. It'd be like, you know, golden skin, I've got green eyes, I've got somebody that never leaves the house, so he looks kind of pale, but because you're going to meet him in the Caribbean, then you'll get a bit of a tan, but you'll see that. Do you know what I mean? That
It's ways rounded, aren't there?
Yeah, exactly. It's not necessarily.
Bart needs poor Bart.
Yes, sorry, Bart.
Neglected here.
So I find not all the cards. Sometimes one of the cards reveals itself to me. I find, I don't know, all of a sudden it clicks. Sometimes you just understand it, and some parts of it. And like I've had this with the Princess of Cups, just staring at it. So what you see is a swan, and you see a tortoise coming out of a shell. Now, I think it tells a story in itself. I mean, the swan is the ugly duckling. So when I see the Princess of Cups, I would say a young girl who is just developing into a beautiful young woman. But this is just what the card reveals to me. But now I have a question.
One thing, Bart, you talked about the swan. In the Golden Dawn, in the Liber 777, the swan is always associated with Keter. Okay.
Yeah, and Crowley also gives an I'm just saying when I see it, I do think the symbols connect in a way. Also with the lotus, you know, what is it? Lotus is purity, you know, is also gathered.
Yeah, but the other thing is our brains are hardwired to connect stuff. You know, we do it automatically. It
makes sense to me.
It's not a big deal association, because that's what we do, and that's why we get it wrong, because we do. You know, this kind of false logic. If this plus that, it must mean that, and it doesn't always. You know, it doesn't work like that. But I mean, I think the thing is the impression I'm getting from the way we're talking is that it doesn't really matter what or Crowley or the Golden Dawn or A. Waite said that card represents. You know, if you have the confidence not to be hidebound by those descriptions and rules about those cards, you can actually go anywhere with it, because people do have different roles in society, and that the role that person has with the person who's a client who's interested in that person isn't necessarily how that other person is in the rest of their life. It's just in that kind of framework.
That actually brings it to a very, very different pivot, because we're just talking about relationships and like potential partners, but sometimes you get a question like, you know, will I be successful in my trial or negotiations with, you know, the local council or whatever, and a court card will come up, and I'll be like, okay, your lynch person, the person that you need to make like a good eye contact with, is a woman with curly brown hair. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, that is my lawyer. So that's the person that will get you the success that you need.
It's whatever phrase. It's whatever phrase gets you there.
Yeah, but it's not just for romance.
No.
Not just for romance. That should be the tagline for people.
I think, you know, you're talking about work. I mean, the interesting thing is that when the court cards represent people in work, they invariably represent people they've got issues with. It's never a harmonious thing then. It's always clashes that go on between people.
Yeah, but if you've got enough drama, then there'll be a couple of people that are your allies and a couple of people that are like the cartoon villains.
That's something that the client doesn't have that confidence necessarily to stand up for himself in bullying, you know, because court cards in a work situation invariably mean bullying, or possibly office romance as well. Then it gets dodgy.
Could be both.
Bart, what's your thoughts on the matter here? You're the man of love, and
I'm the man of love. I am not the man of love, Paul. Yeah, well, I suppose I agree with everything you say.
That's not making it. We all agree. That's not, you know, we're supposed to be having a, was it a something debate? Let's have a heated debate. That's what it was, wasn't it? It's from that series.
Yeah, I know, but right now here,
Mrs. Merton had a heated debate, didn't she?
Yeah, this part now about, yeah, it is true. The court cards do represent for me either certain characteristics or certain situations.
Yeah. And it's matching up, and sometimes it's an incongruity that highlights a particular court card in those situations as well. It doesn't fit, you know, and it's like, well, who the hell's that person? And if you do card counting, and if you know about uncounted cards, I don't know if you know about this, Inbaal.
No, I don't.
What happens is that card counting is you fan out the cards, and all of the cards have a particular number that you can count from. So the knight, the queen, and the prince are all 4. The princesses are 7. The 10 of discs you count 10, as is the 10 of swords, and so on. And you can do this with the major cards as well. When I was writing the Tarot and the Magus, I actually did a Excel spreadsheet to go through all the kind of card counting that you could do in this particular thing, and I noticed that because the actual rule is you start from the top card basically and count from that one. You can go another direction. But when you go through all of the cards, you realize sometimes there's cards that none of the cards count onto.
Right.
But that card obviously counts onto 2 cards, but there are no cards that count onto it. And it's an uncounted card. It's an invisible card. And sometimes if it's a court card that's uncounted, that actually represents a person the client doesn't even know about, who either hasn't turned up or is behind the scenes doing things, and they need to find out who it is. Or it could just mundanely be a secret admirer as well.
Yeah, but no, I know exactly what you mean. When I used to do face-to-face readings, hopefully one day again, I get people to cut the cards into 3 packs and then pick 1 pack for me to read from. And I put, the most standard, normal Celtic cross. So what happens when they pick a pack with 7 cards? So then I'm missing some stuff, and it's not me missing things. Each thing that doesn't connect has a meaning in itself. So it'll be somebody who has no hopes or fears, or somebody that has no domestic situation, maybe in between houses, maybe in between partners. But yeah, I'm really, really into reading meanings into what's not there, into what's not sort of part of the picture.
Yeah, it's the context of what's missing sometimes as much as what is there. And sometimes I'm looking at the cards and I'm thinking, what isn't here? Rather than what is. And sometimes what isn't there can be more important than what is, because that's the thing. The other thing I was thinking of that in psychotherapeutic terms, and in general, is that every card is an aspect of ourselves, particularly the court cards as well.